Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Webster. I'm the founder, CEO, and CISO for Cyvergence. Part of what Cyvergence does is bridge together business and cybersecurity. And this course is just a natural extension of that philosophy. The course is called Becoming the Next Generation CISO, Bridging Business and Cybersecurity with Emotional Intelligence. That is what the course is in a nutshell. And it means so many more things than this. And it's going to be broader than what you might expect. But from what I've heard from other people, nobody else is teaching a cybersecurity CISO course anything like what we're doing. So I am very proud of the changes that have been going on. This is the final version of the course. I have been through the betas and all that transparency has paid off. I've gotten some fantastic feedback and I feel very comfortable with where the course is at right now. So, why this course? I think this is really, really important. When you look at the personal risks to CISOs, it's tough. Stress and burnout, part of the job. It's very, very common. Stress levels, 88% reported moderate to tremendous. So, again, very concerning. 48% reported an impact to their mental health. So, that's 50% of the CISOs out there are running into a lot of problems. Medication or substance abuse, really, really common for CISOs to seek some sort of substance abuse or medication. Not the best situation. Now, Gartner, and these statistics have been around for a while. They've been talked about for years. Like the first time I became a CISO, the average lifespan of a CISO was 17 months. But Gartner says that 50% of CISOs are looking to leave their jobs. Now, unfortunately, that's not terribly surprising, as 50% of people, just general people in their companies, want to leave their jobs. It's a bad work environment. To me, what's more telling here is 25% of CISOs are looking to leave the industry altogether. 25%. So they're in the role and they're saying goodbye, no more. That means our best talent is walking out the door. Ian's 2024, 67 to 75% of CISOs are looking to switch their jobs. They just put out a new report and the statistics have not changed at all, just barely. So we're still in this situation where a lot of CISOs are not willing to stay. And I think there's a lot going into that. What's more surprising, though, is CISOs have the lowest lifespan of any C-suite executive. Most last 5.3 years on average. The CISOs, and these numbers jump around a little bit, but I've seen it between 17 months and 2 years. This is not healthy. Part of my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal, is to reduce that. Part of that reduction means taking this course. That's part of the reason I bring in emotional intelligence and all these other skills, because I think these skills are going to help you last longer in the role. So the bigger picture, 70% of people don't want to become managers because they've never had a good manager. That should speak volumes right there. As I said before, 50% of people want to leave their position. But I do think that CISOs are in a tough position, especially if reporting into a technical function. They've oftentimes got to report on what's going on. And I have got story after story that I tell in the training to talk about different situations, both from personal life and from others that I've seen. It is a dog eat dog world out there for a lot of CISOs. And most people have never had management training. We're just flat out unprepared. I remember the first time I had management training, I was absolutely thrilled. I couldn't believe I was getting the training and it felt like I was walking on air. So that company, I do have to give them some credit for it. But let's step back for a minute. Let's take a lesson from Boeing. As most of you know, Boeing has had some issues with doors flying off and a bunch of other mechanical issues. There was a big documentary I was watching that was kind of talking about some of the issues with Boeing, and they had a culture where they couldn't report problems. The line manager wanted to shut everything down and said, look, we have too many problems with planes as they're leaving the gate. And they were not prepared and they couldn't do anything about it. They just had to say, oh, well, life must go on. And senior management said, you are not shutting down anything. You need to keep sending those planes out as fast as possible and do as much as you can with as little resources as possible. That's where IT is at. That's where security is. We're coming in there reporting on a lot of these things. And again, it depends. Like if you're in the 2 lines or 3 lines model versus a non 3 lines model company, the situation is very, very different. But Boeing is stuck in that situation. And that's not a IT technical function, but it is a process function, and it's a process function failure. But the other part that makes things a little more complicated is the psychology. And I spent a lot of time talking about psychology. One type of trait that I'm talking about, and there's 3 traits all in one, is the dark triad. The larger the company, the more likely you're going to find people who have elements of dark triad within them. This is a concept that psychologists came up with in 2002 to describe the combination of traits that you're seeing here. Narcissism, like, hey, I'm wonderful. Psychopathy, it's somebody who's a psychopath. And Machiavellianism. These are people who try to manipulate other people. There's also the dark tetrad, which adds sadism into the mix as well. So I do spend a lot of time talking about these because if you're in a medium-sized company or larger and middle-aged, you probably have run into one or more of these individual people. It's just a fact of life. And you're going to need to learn how to navigate them from a political standpoint. That's part of what this whole course is about, is learning to navigate the personalities and understanding the personalities that are out there. But to go a little bit further into the dark triad, it's not like a common person, like, oh, I made a mistake. Let's go ahead and correct the mistake. And you're good. And you apologize. And people accept the apology and you move on. When you're talking about dark triad, they've got a whole different operating function that they work under. They aren't there to achieve mutual agreement with other people. They aren't trying to apologize or anything. They're not interested in alignment. They're interested in tearing you down and destroying you. And it's a very, very common to find in organizations. They oftentimes do not apologize. I have heard them apologize, but that doesn't change it. But their goal really is absolute control and to destroy you. They want to get you out of the company and whatever it takes psychologically or whatever. And there's a whole bunch of techniques that they use, gaslighting, boiling the frog, and the list goes on. I talk about what those are and how to strategize yourself and how to help protect yourself when in organizations. These are survival skills. These are skills that you need to know as a CISO in order to operate differently within organizations. It's a different skill set. Quite often the dark triad, they don't have a conscience. So you get hurt, you get damaged, they don't care. It's all about them, 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 them. They twist anything you say to fit whatever narrative that happens to fit the narrative they want to tell that's going to help them in some way. And when you start to look at it and you understand the psychology behind these different types of people, that's what I'm trying to protect CISOs against. So you understand it. If you have bad behaviors, those bad behaviors are going to weaponize against you. And there's a lot going into this, but it's really common for people to be hurt along the way. There's physiological changes that take place when you're in danger. When you're dealing with people like this, that danger is fairly common. But let's change gears here. I want to get into the overview of the course because I don't want to make this too long, but the course is a full 5 days long. And there are 3 options for the training. A, we can do it online via Zoom. That's what I refer to as the Premier Executive Training. Currently, we have flexible scheduling, and it can be recorded in case you happen to miss a session and want to jump back in. We can do that. But that's what the Premier Executive is. There's the Executive Professional. This is fully recorded. You also can record some stuff because it is a very interactive course as you're going to learn from, and you have a chance to go back and look at the recordings. Then, of course, there's independent leadership. It's fully recorded. You don't get feedback, but you can watch it and get back to me when you're ready. So the agenda. So this has changed slightly, but the content hasn't changed greatly except in a few areas. But I'll go through them. It's first basic introductions, you expect that. But then we explore a little bit about the internal and external CISO pressures that CISOs are under. And a lot of this is from experience. I can tell you, CISOs are not in a great situation for the most part within their companies. They don't have the resources to go get things done. I have felt that myself. I have seen that. I've witnessed it. And I know a lot of people and a lot of people who know the same facts. These are almost facts within the cybersecurity community. But part of that, I want to be able to change that. Part of this means exploring corporate financial literacy. A lot of CISOs, even people who've taken the beta test of the course, this is like a whole new way of thinking. I'm not even familiar with a lot of these terms. We've got our acronyms in the CISO community, the IT community. They have their acronyms. Well, there's a business acronym as well. And a lot of this boils around financial literacy. It's something that CEOs know, that CFOs know. I teach you those skills, and I teach you the important ones for being able to communicate. The next section is on creating business alignment. Creating business alignment is really, really critical, and a lot of CISOs don't necessarily go down this route. I teach you some of those skills. From an IT perspective, I've even been in a room full of CIOs and CTOs. They're even afraid of some of this stuff in order to create that are so necessary to do your job properly. That's in creating business alignment. But there's a lot that goes into it. It's several hours of training just on that. And it's how do you do that? And it's just a critical part that's usually missing. The next section is toxicities. This is where we get into the dark triad and a bunch of other stuff going on within there. Dark triad is just one example of the type of personality. Like we deal with megalomania, a big part of that. So it's learning what it is and how it affects you and what that's going to mean. From there, though, we start to get into your soft skills. How do you respond to those toxicities? What are the other soft skills that you need as a CISO? And a lot of people, especially if you come from a technical background, a lot of CISOs come because they're really good at the technical side and the cyber side. They're thrown in and they don't necessarily work on the soft skills. And a lot of this boils down to the Dunning-Kruger effect. People think that they're ready, but they don't know that they're not ready. And those are the types of things that I get into. The next side is building communication skills. Communication skills are incredibly important. This tells you how do you communicate? How do you present yourself? What do you do when you're dealing with some of these challenges? There's a whole bunch of stuff, but a lot of this deals with public speaking. And how do you communicate well beyond all this jargon that we're used to speaking about? Then there's the echelons in a cybersecurity program. We talk a little bit about that. You know, what are some things that you can do? What are some advanced practices that you can put in place to help you understand the different people that you're working with? Next, we move into personnel and corporate context. So this is sort of interesting. This is where we start to get into culture and understand that cultural venue and all the different aspects and things like that that go along with the culture. And then we get into redefining management. Before I had management leadership as one section, but I decided to break these out because there's a lot of interesting things that go on for both of them. Now, by some definitions, there's some overlap between management and leadership, and all leaders have to have management skills anyway. But I talk a lot about the latest and greatest versions of the management training that's out there. Now, next level leadership, this is too. And all these things, we're bringing in a lot of the stuff that we've talked about with the psychology from the toxicities in the workplace and some others, but this continues throughout the rest of the course. Next level leadership is no exemption from that. Next level leadership, we talk about those types of things. We get into politics. What do you need to do as a leader? What are the key things that you should be doing to protect yourself? Then we get into planning for your success as a CISO, especially if you're starting with that first 100 days, because that can change everything. And I've got a little different take on the first 100 days than most CISOs tend to operate under. We spend, probably a couple, 2, 3 hours just on the planning for your success. Because if you don't understand what you're dealing with, that can be a big challenge for you down the road. And I'm here to help protect you. After that, we get into the critical role of risk management. This, again, is really critical. I am very passionate about risk management. And it's one of the things that I see as I talk to CISOs and help other CISOs deal with risk management problems. A lot of CISOs are not willing to put the time in there to do risk management properly. And that's what I do is I try to help CISOs understand what that bigger picture is, because this is a long, complex conversation, but it's one well worth having. The next one is advancing cybersecurity programs. Again, there's a lot of psychology that's going into this because it helps you to understand. Even some a little bit of communication skills dives into this. But also, I dive into some things like fighting cybersecurity theater. Most of us are aware of what cybersecurity theater is, but how do you fight it? Because there's a lot of different definitions of things that are out there. And that's part of what I do is help you to advance those programs. You've got to look at things from a programmatic standpoint, how all those things connect together. That's what advancing cybersecurity programs is about. Finally, we end with cybersecurity and the board of directors. So after going through all this stuff, finally, we're going to get to the board of directors and how you're going to handle that and what are the different challenges that board of directors are dealing with today. The landscape is shifting very drastically, as you should well know. And this is where they take the culmination of all those skills and put them together, but also understand where the board of directors comes in. They're a very unique group, and they've got a lot of different challenges from their side of it too. None of this stuff is easy, but it's part of the reality of what CISO is. Because part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach you the reality of the CISO role and what it's going to take for you to get beyond a lot of the ABCs of that CISO role and help you be successful. That's part of my BHAG is to making sure that you are successful as CISOs. So teaching methodologies, a lot of methodologies. I'm not going to read this verbatim, but it is very well thought out about the methodologies. If you want, you can freeze frame this and read through some of these, but I thought very carefully about how to present the course. There's, for example, interleaving, where I weave different concepts together and you use them. Like the financial skills, I take some of those things and you use them throughout the rest of the course. We do take regular breaks every hour. We don't just wait for, hey, let's do a 10:30 break in the morning. Let's go give you a 5-minute break every single hour so you can relax, and it helps you to remember the details a little bit better. So there's a lot of hands-on stuff and experiential things. There's collaborative exercises. We're going to be working with somebody else to do things. A lot of storytelling, scenarios, all these different things are part of the process. There's also group discussions. I bring these up, but these usually run no more than 30 minutes, where you're just going to be dealing with that. Then there's deep dives. This is where we're going to explore a topic, probably for about an hour, perhaps a little bit more, but that's what we're covering with the deep dives. There's case studies. Have a lot of different case studies from a lot of different perspectives. Some of these are cybersecurity case studies. Some of them are psychology or other contexts that are so relevant to CISOs. I really do try to bring something different to the table that a lot of people haven't thought about. But this is what we're dealing with here. Throughout this whole course, I throw in different types of improvement games as well. I'm going to make a statement, and then there's going to be some sort of response. Students respond, and then I'm going to show some recommendations. Hey, here's some options. So I provide a bad example, and then there's a response, how to do that. That really helps you to think about this stuff and learn about it and where are the mistakes coming in and what are the things you're going to do. Again, yet another method to help you learn a little bit better. I also teach when should you exit the company. These are recommendations, but this is a really important part because if you don't know when to exit, things could be far worse than you're aware of. And part of what I do is I bring that awareness to you because the whole course is about being able to read the room. But you know what? Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. But I'm not going to tell you that you should, but I will make some recommendations for you to think about, at least give you that information. So I want to thank you today. We've covered a lot. I do want to announce as well that I do have a new program that's in development that's an extension of the course because the reality is there is so much information. When I was doing the final cutting of the course and putting everything together, I took out 300 to 400 slides of things that I just had too much information on. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be baking this into continuous learning over the course of the year. So if you think you didn't get enough, there is more. People are excited about this. So I'm very excited that everybody's going to be joining us today. But I want to thank you very much for your time. If you don't know how to reach out to me, contact me on LinkedIn. I am all over LinkedIn. You can also email me at matthew.webster@cyvergence.biz. And there's a lot of great information. I'm happy to talk to you. We can do a deeper dive than what the course is right now, and what I've been able to show you today to say, hey, here's proof that this exists. There's some great resources too. I can also send you over some reviews that people have put publicly on LinkedIn about the course and how it's affected them. These are really fantastic reviews, and I've been absolutely thrilled that people have come forward to go talk a lot about this stuff because it's making the course all that much more valuable. So anyway, reach out to me, but thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you will decide to join the course. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.